We were told that predictable lives were safe lives. That if we just followed the script, we would be protected. And for a couple of decades, at least in the West, it seemed like it worked. You could predict life by decade. But that world is gone. And yet so many of us still live as if the old map will take us somewhere new. But the truth is, predictable lives are the most dangerous kind, because when you build your life around avoiding uncertainty, you also avoid aliveness. I had everything that was supposed to make life safe. An engineering degree, prestigious jobs, and even a European residence permit on the way. On paper, I made it, and yet I felt like I was suffocating. That day in Luxembourg, as I stared down at my performance review, which was exceptional by the way, and would put me on a promotion track, I felt nothing. Then a quiet realization hit me. I had been playing the wrong game. It wasn't simply a burnout, it was something deeper. Safety had become my prison. I was raised to be a great student and an even better worker. I lived with a quiet fear of falling behind and of losing what I had built for myself. And maybe a slight fantasy of joining the top 1%. The culture calls this being responsible, realistic, ambitious. It encourages us to build 5-year plans and chase stability like it's oxygen. But really, we're all playing what I call the game of safety. A game where success is measured by how little risk you take. Every major decision in my life, from where I lived to what I studied, was completely designed to minimize uncertainty and maximize predictability and return of investments. Where the goal was never self-growth, but a total control of life. Where curiosity, creativity, and intuition became luxuries and not necessities. Yet the more certain and predictable my life became, the more fragile I felt. Because I realized safety only works in predictable worlds, and this definitely isn't one. Certainty was a 21st century illusion, and it has completely collapsed. Yet, as society, we are still playing the same game, just with fancier tools and fancier fears. The danger of certainty isn't boredom, it's disconnection from ourselves and from life itself. When life becomes a checklist, we stop listening to what actually moves us. We outsource our choices to our teachers, parents, algorithms, and quote-unquote best practices. We stop asking, what do I actually want? What does freedom mean to me? Control sedates us. It keeps us just alive enough to breathe and buy, but not truly awake. And when the inevitable uncertainty comes, the job loss, the breakup, and another unprecedented world event, we cannot bend, so we break. A friend told me recently, I feel like I had been sleepwalking for a decade. I don't remember most of it. And that's what happens when you over-optimize for safety. The days blur and the years disappear. You wake up realizing your life never quite exploded, but it quietly evaporated. Paradoxically, the middle-class political, economical, social construct that gave us so much stability and safety has also become the source of our anxiety. We are always afraid of losing what we have achieved in life. And increasingly, lately, our fears. Stable jobs are being automated and our savings are being inflated away. The safe systems are collapsing under their own weight. The systems that once rewarded predictability, like the education system and the corporate ladder, are fracturing at a speed rate. So of course we feel restless, not because something is wrong with us, but because our nervous system realizes something before our rational minds can accept it. The old world that we miss so much, that promised so much safety and stability to us, is not coming back. And that's terrifying, but it doesn't have to be a tragedy, where we are all met with this invitation to recognize that the safety and stability that we were promised was always an illusion. And now it's up to us to whether answer or deny this invitation to create a more honest system. So what's the alternative to control? The alternative is not recklessness, it's what I call strategic uncertainty. It's the deliberate practice of changing control with a general sense of direction, of holding a compass instead of a map, and saying, I don't need to know the 10 steps ahead, I just need to know the next true one. And that's how I ended up in Egypt after leaving my corporate job for a humanitarian role that was short-term and promised no stability and safety, but I knew deep in my soul that it was the right choice for me because it aligned with my core values: curiosity, creativity, and service. And that one single decision changed the paradigm of my life because I realized certainty is not the enemy, it's the actual substance of life. Breaking free from the game of safety doesn't have to mean burning your life down. It just means rebuilding trust with yourself one decision at a time. Here's what helped me. First, map your discomfort prison. Have an audit of your major life choices and ask yourself which one of these were driven by fear and which one of these were driven by curiosity and love. When I did this, I realized almost 90% of my major life decisions were completely based on fear. Second, design your discomfort. The modern economy helps us become comfortable consumers and in the meantime keeping us fragile and depressed. So to counter that, take intentional risks, leave your comfort zone in service of your values. So for example, if you value creativity but live an analytical life, why not take an art class? If you value connection but hide behind independence, why not join a couple of communities? Each small action that we take in service of our values makes us more and more alive. Third, rebuild flexibility. Each week, create a small rupture in your universe. Say yes to something you would never say yes to. Take a different route to work. Choose intuition over analysis in your decision-making. These micro-ruptures build flexibility, which is what we need in an ever-changing world. Fourth, create internal safety. Life was never nothing but a free fall, but we all just kept looking for walls to cling. True adulthood was never about not having to fall, but it was always about our trust in our ability to get back up. In this unpredictable world, real safety will never come from outside, but it will always come from inside, in our ability to say, I can handle what life throws in my way. Fifth step, redefine success. I'm 30 years old, and when I was in university, we would read so many books about Silicon Valley founders trying to distill information for success in life. And now we see them high and trying to ruin our lives. I guess if that's not a wake-up call on redefining success on your own terms, I don't know what is. Now, I try to measure my life in terms of expansion and not protection, of the moments that I faced my fears, of the moments that I tried to learn new skills, and of the moments that felt completely alive. So now we are at the end of game of safety, and it's terrifying, but it's also kind of liberating, because if the old playbook is broken, we are finally ready to write a new one. And maybe this time the goal is not to minimize uncertainty, but to come alive. Maybe strategy is just showing up, values over goals, and direction over certainty. Lives built around game of safety don't just explode overnight. They usually tick quietly until you wake up one day and realize you were living someone else's life. So maybe now that we are at the end of game of safety, we are free to choose a new one. Game of true aliveness, game of being more and more ourselves. And maybe that's the only winning strategy in a game that rules keeps changing.